Hi, I'm Matt Pierce, host of The Forge. We've got a great episode for you. We're talking with LeFever from Commoncraft, and then we're talking how you can win some great prizes with the ScreenChamp Awards. All right, before we get into our interview with LeFever, a couple things. ScreenChamp Awards are coming up. You can start submitting your videos on September 16th through October 9th. Make sure you get your best video into us so we can get it into the pool of potential nominees, and you can win some fantastic prizes. Learn more at screenchamp.techsmith.com. Now we get the opportunity to speak with LeFever. Lee is the author of The Art of Explanation. He's also the founder of Commoncraft. And if you haven't seen their videos, they're really great. And we're going to talk with him about how you guys can learn how to be better visual communicators. We'd also like to, before we jump into the interview, just thank PremiumBeat.com for sponsoring the ScreenChamp Awards this year. They're providing some fantastic gift certificates for the winners of our awards. So now over to Lee, and hopefully you guys enjoy this great interview. Hi, I am super excited about our guest today. His name is LeFever. He is the founder of Commoncraft. If you haven't seen Commoncraft stuff, it is fantastic. But good chance you've actually seen it and just didn't realize who Lee was or who was the kind of the mastermind behind it. So we're going to be talking with him about his book, The Art of Explanation, as well as kind of the background of Commoncraft. So Lee, thank you for joining us today.
It's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
So Lee, for those who might be the uninitiated with and maybe not made the connection, tell us a little bit about what Commoncraft is and kind of what your goals are.
Well, you know, at the very highest level, I say that Commoncraft is a company who makes animated videos that take complex subjects and make them easy to understand. But what makes us different, I think, and what people might recognize is we use a very specific format for all of our videos that has paper cutouts on a whiteboard. We use stop motion animation, live action video to basically tell a story in about 3 minutes that hopefully makes something easy to understand.
So what I've seen, Lee, is I've seen your videos. I've seen lots of imitations of your videos. Take us back to the beginning, because you've been doing this actually for quite a while. I guess what was the genesis for this idea? Because before seems like at least you were the guys that started this, right?
You know, I do think we were lucky to be early in the whole thing. We were one of the first to kind of make explanation the goal, I guess. And it really came out of me being a consultant and working with clients who were interested in technology and interested in what was becoming social media, but didn't really have a really foundational understanding of what a wiki was or what RSS was or blogs. And so I saw an opportunity to explain it better using video. And I think that what we learned early on was that what was keeping people, in a lot of cases, from adopting these technologies wasn't, design or access or price or anything like that. That a lot of times it was simply communication. It was explanation. And the way I say it is that a lot of the geeks were doing the explaining. And they had a hard time connecting with the mainstream audience. And I think that we saw that as an opportunity to create media that really spoke to everyday people about technology in a way that they could understand.
Now, I think one of my first experiences with the Commoncraft video was, I think it was Twitter in plain English. And it just kind of like, wow, I think I get it. And I remember pointing it to people and people, then of course coming back to me and saying, oh yeah, did you see this? Yeah, I saw this. And I guess as you started down that path of starting to learn to explain, what were some of the early lessons? Because I think a lot of people out there, we are all explainers. We all have something in our lives that we know that we might be passionate about. It might be our hobby. It might be our job. But what are some of the early kind of lessons, either good or bad, like, oh, don't do that, or definitely do this, that you learned to make that kind of work really well for you?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think that, we started making videos because YouTube was really starting to take off in 2006 and 2007. And I think video itself really is an amazing communication tool that the power is pretty obvious to people on the web, but that combination of having a voiceover where someone's explaining something with voice along with visuals at the same time I think was a really powerful thing that we underestimated the power of early on. And of course, I think it's pretty obvious now what a big deal video is. But I also think that a lot of videos and a lot of media is really visually overdone. That there's a lot of focus on, for one thing, technical excellence, where every single bit of it, every pixel is perfect, and every thing, the beauty matters more than anything else, or design sort of matters more than anything else. And what we realized is that Twitter video, when I look at that, I kind of cringe now, because technically it's not very pretty, and it's not a great video in standard video terms. But it didn't matter. What mattered was the explanation. What mattered was the script and the story that we told. And that's really what we've carried forward to now, is that the power of what we do and what a lot of explainers do isn't just about these visuals. It's really about writing. It's really about telling stories and being able to capture an idea in a way that speaks to people. And that goes beyond visuals by a long shot, I think.
So, because I was thinking about this, like, of all the things that you did, you chose the interesting style with these paper cutouts. In fact, as I've gone around and talked to some people here at TechSmith about, like, hey, I'm talking to this guy, and they're like, oh, who's that? And I explained the Common Craft videos. I'm like, well, it's got these like paper cutouts, and you can see his hand. They're kind of looking at me like, really? Paper cutouts? I guess because even though I love the point that story is like the most important thing, right? The things that you're putting into that, and the visuals, they're important, but they're not the heart of it necessarily. So what led you to this idea of paper cutouts and using digital, or I guess these assets versus, you being on camera or getting actors to do things, or something else that you could have done?
Yeah, sure. I tried to do the guy in front of the whiteboard kind of videos, and it was frustrating. And I give a lot of credit to my wife Sachi, who actually gets credit for a lot of our great decisions. She doesn't get enough credit in Common Craft, and I want to acknowledge that Sachi is a huge part of Common Craft, and it would not be Common Craft without her. But she was the one who said, you know what? This is not working. Let's try a whole different thing. And she had the idea of taking the whiteboard off the wall and putting it down on the ground or the table and pointing a camera down at the whiteboard and using only hands, markers, and paper cutouts. And it was just sort of, hey, that could be fun. Let's try that. And we had no idea what would happen. And then that first video, RSS in plain English, was the first one we did. Again, technically pretty bad. We lit it with bedroom lamps, and I was speaking directly into the mic on the camera, but it didn't matter. It kind of went from there. And at that moment, it was like, wow, people like this. Can we do it again? And that's really been what we've done since then, is that exact same format that sort of sprang to life within a few hours, and hasn't looked back, really.
Well, I thank you for acknowledging Sachi, and I think it's, good ideas are never evolved in a vacuum, and and I think it's interesting because the things that it does for me is it takes out, there's a lot of personality there. And I mentioned this to you when we talked earlier, that I had the chance to see Lee at a conference, and I walked into the room, not, again, making the connection between his name and what he had done, and I heard your voice, right? And like, I know that guy. But what it did is it takes away some of the, probably the thing that people experience when they watch this. They're like, well, there's this guy, he's standing there talking, who cares about that? And it puts the content front and center. And so I really love that. So you actually, out of your experience, you've written The Art of Explanation, which is it's a really good read. Lots of great things here. I guess for those who have not had a chance to hear of the book or look at the book, general rundown, what would someone get out of reading The Art of Explanation? Why should they check it out?
First of all, I would say that, in making videos since 2007, I think, practiced a lot and hopefully got really good at explaining ideas. And what we realized is the things that we learned about explaining were not only related to video or media, that they were basic communication skills. We started to see that everybody explains all the time, but it's something that very few of us actually ever take a step back and think about explanation as a skill, like as something that you can actually improve and like make a part of your professional tool set as being an explainer. And that's really what we want people to do, is to see that there's this thing you're doing every day. It's just happening. You're not thinking about it. But if you actually think about it and do it with intent and purpose, that can actually unlock all kinds of possibilities for you, whether you're a teacher or a CEO or a mom or whatever it is. Explanation matters to everybody, but not everybody actually thinks about the potential to improve.
Now, I'm guessing, and as I've read through the book, I realize there's lots of skills that go into being an explainer, right? There's things that, many areas that you can improve on to do that well. Thinking about our audience here, is there one or two that you'd say if you could just get those pretty good, you'd be way better than most everybody else out there?
Yeah. One of the things that I think is really powerful, that is really honestly not an easy thing to do, but I think that the best explainers and the best explanations are built on a sense of empathy, which is not thinking about the ideas you're explaining from your perspective, but being able to imagine yourself in someone else's shoes and imagining what your words sound like to them, because that's what matters, is what they hear. And being able to separate yourself from the ideas and think about how it's being perceived is a great way to see your words in context, to really change how you communicate in that way. A second thing I would say is that if you're someone who sees an opportunity where a better explanation is needed, the best thing you can do is just start writing about it and start writing out how you think you could explain it better. And by simply writing about it, you don't even have to share it, but by simply writing about it, pretend that you're writing a script for a video, you'll start to see it in a different way. And that's something you can build on and build on and build on. And it's a really great entree to making an idea easy to understand, is just start writing about it.
Okay, I love that. Empathy and actually just start trying to explain things, right?
Yeah.
It seems like those are pretty, at least doable, and empathy is probably a lot harder than trying to write something. As you've gone out, and I'm sure it's kind of like when you're looking for a car, right? You start to look for a type of car, you see lots of those types of cars. In your experience, have you found yourself like watching people and listening to people as explainers, and has there been anyone that just has blown you away, like, whoa, that was a great explanation, they nailed it, that you just, and it surprised you maybe?
Yeah, I listen to a lot of podcasts, and I think a lot of people that are in media are natural explainers. Either they got into it because they were, or they learned. Teachers, journalists, that kind of thing. But a lot of podcasts really have some of the best explanations. I'm a huge fan of RadioLab.
Oh, yes. Me too.
Jad Abumrad and Robert Krulwich, they have an amazing way of using their podcast, sound design, all these things to really just highlight an idea in a way that few other people can. There's people that I think do a really great job. Other ones are, Ira Glass and This American Life. I think some news people like Rachel Maddow is really great at explaining ideas. And there's countless, teachers who might not appear on TV who are also great explainers. And obviously there's video makers like ourselves. There's folks that are in our explainer network that have built a business around being a company that makes explainer videos.
You mentioned RadioLab, and I got excited because I've been listening to a lot of the podcasts, and I think for anyone that hasn't listened to them, we might as well give them a plug. But the one that I love, because it is radio, right? It's this audio source, and we're talking about video most of the time here on the Forge, and the one where they talked about about color. And it's about a very visual topic. It's about the rods and the cones in your eyes and what colors you can see, and what can a sparrow see? What can a dog see? What can the mantis shrimp see? And that is a fantastic episode for anyone that hasn't heard it. Go out and find it.
Yeah. You know what's funny about that is I actually use that as an example in my talks. And I play the audio of the chorus singing the colors. And it's an example for me of thinking about media in different ways and overcoming constraints. Like how do you talk about color on the radio, right? Well, you use sound to represent color, and I think that's kind of an interesting way to think about media.
Do you find you thinking about this media in other ways, right? Like the fact that a radio show could describe color in such a rich way. Do you find that in your explanations that it's helpful to try to not think about like, oh, well, this is video. I mean, like to use your audio in a way that's going to do that, even though you're going to have the visual support?
You know, a couple things come to mind. I think that when we make a video, our goal, and we don't think about this every time, but our goal is for the audio to be done in such a way that it can stand alone. You should be able to understand the idea just from the audio, and then something similar from the video, that you should be able to watch the video and get a feel for what's being explained even without the audio, so that the two together become, you know, greater than the sum of the parts, kind of idea. And so that's one goal. But also, I think that you know, we try to work within a set of constraints in our videos, and I think that that really, you know, might seem contradictory, that constraints are actually freedom, but I think they really are, because we have a specific style. We don't use live action like, you know, faces. We don't use music. We use under 3 minutes. All these things that make a Common Craft video really free us to really focus on the things that matter. We don't have to think about, am I able to license the music I want to use? We just don't have music. Right. And I think that really helps us focus on things that really matter to Common Craft videos.
You know, I'm sure there's a ton more we could talk about that, and maybe Lee, we'll have to have you back, but I do want to keep this in with a reasonable length of time that people will want to watch. I love the idea of constraints. So anyone that hasn't seen the art of explanation, go pick it up. We'll link to it in the blog post and in our YouTube description. Lee, and if they want to learn more about Common Craft, about what you guys are doing and learn from you, where should they go and what should they do?
Yeah, you can watch all our videos for free on our website at commoncraft.com.
And they also, if there's a membership you can get, and you got some great resources there as well.
That's right. That's right. We have both our cutouts, which is the artwork, similar artwork to what appears in our videos, and our videos. Our members, Common Craft members, are usually teachers and trainers that use the videos in classrooms. So we give our members embed codes. We let them download the video files so they can put them in PowerPoint. We do lots of things for the members that they can't do by just watching the video online.
Fantastic. So go check out Common Craft at commoncraft.com. Again, the art of explanation. You can find it at Amazon or probably any of your favorite booksellers. So Lee, thank you so much for joining us today.
All right. Thank you.